2CB is a synthetic psychoactive substance of the phenethylamine family. It's described as a stimulant, empathogen, hallucinogen, and psychedelic. The compound draws comparisons to LSD and MDMA, though it's not quite the same as either. It's most commonly found as a powder, tablet, or capsule. The first of the 2CX group to be synthesized, 2CB, is also the best known. It was listed in Pikal, Phenethylamines I Have Known and Loved, as one of legendary psychopharmacologist and author Alexander Sasha Shulgin's magical half-dozen, the 6 phenethylamines he saw as the most important, and all but one of which he designed. 2CB has been used as an aphrodisiac, entheogen, dance drug, ecstasy adulterant, and it provided aid in psychotherapy. However, it has never gained widespread acceptance. Since the mid-1990s, it has been banned in most countries. 2CB was discovered in 1974 by Shulgin. The following year, he described it as beautifully psychoactive and compared its effects to mescaline and LSD. He also noted the compound's empathogenic properties and, as with MDMA, recommended it to a small number of psychotherapists for experimentation with their clients. 2CB remained mostly underground throughout its early days. It was first encountered by the DEA in 1979, but aside from the seizure of several clandestine laboratories, no legislative action was taken. When MDMA was banned in 1985, 2CB's popularity surged as a legal alternative. It was also developed as an aphrodisiac by the German pharmaceutical company Dritawell and marketed under the brand name Erox, Nexus, and Performax. By the early 1990s, America had become the world's largest consumer of this over-the-counter treatment for impotence and frigidity, although many were using it for its psychedelic effects. The FDA banned the remedy in 1993, urging other countries to do the same. In South Africa, it had already become popular among Xhosa-speaking Sangomas, or diviners, who used Dritawell's product instead of their own increasingly scarce traditional plant medicines. The drug was repackaged and distributed under a different name to make it more marketable to shamans. Between 1994 and 1995, 2CB was added to Schedule 1 of the Controlled Substances Act in the United States. South Africa and others followed with legislation of their own. In response, numerous research chemical analogs, such as BK2CB, have been developed to circumvent the law. According to the 2014 Global Drug Survey of a limited sample of self-selected respondents who use psychoactive drugs, 2CB ranks among the top 20 substances for past year prevalence in 9 different countries. The highest prevalence was in the UK, the Republic of Ireland, and the Netherlands. Phenethylamines like 2CB are known as simple psychedelics for their one-ring structure, when contrasted with the more complex structure of indoles. Some other phenethylamines include amphetamines, mescaline, mephedrone, ephedrine, and caffeine and cathinone from cat. 2CB is so called for the 2 carbon atoms that join the phenyl ring to the amino group, and for the bromine atom substituted at the R4 position. Like the other 2Cs, 2CB has methoxy groups at locations R2 and R5. Relatively little is known about the pharmacodynamics of 2CB, but it shows a binding affinity for the 5-HT2 serotogenic receptors. Unlike the classical psychedelics, it selectively antagonizes the 5-HT2A receptor subtype usually involved in hallucinogenic effects. Its psychoactivity is thought to be at least partially related to agonism of 5-HT2C receptors, or to signaling pathways coupled to 5-HT2A. Further agonism of A1 adrenergic receptors may be responsible for 2CB's stimulant effects. The compound has also been shown to increase the levels of dopamine found in rats. 2CB is metabolized by the monoamine oxidases A and B, so it likely poses a risk for people on MAO inhibitors. These include some types of antidepressants as well as ayahuasca. Research into the safety of 2CB is otherwise lacking, perhaps due to the legal restrictions involved in obtaining samples. What we do know about the drug is mainly anecdotal. For instance, some users report taking up to 10 times the highest recommended dose with no lingering health problems, while several fatalities have been linked to other substances in the 2C family, including 2CT7 and 2CI-M-bomb. None have been attributed to 2CB alone, however. That being said, virtually nothing is known about the medium to long-term health risks, and some users may be more susceptible than others. One female user experienced severe headaches, brain dysfunction, and weak limbs within 48 hours of taking liquid 2CB. In a similar sort of time frame, a male user with no family history of psychosis began to experience auditory hallucinations, increased irritability, and paranoid delusions. These symptoms persisted for 2 months until he was treated with the antipsychotic medication risperidone. It should be noted, however, that in neither of these highly unusual cases was the presence of 2CB actually confirmed. 2CB is commonly swallowed either as a tablet, capsule, or powder. The powders may be dissolved in a liquid or wrapped in a paper and swallowed. The threshold oral dose is 2 to 5 milligrams, while a light effective dose is around 5 to 15 milligrams. Most users take between 15 and 25 milligrams, and anything above that is considered too powerful. 50 milligrams seems to be a reasonable upper limit. The onset of effects lasts roughly 45 to 75 minutes, with a 15 to 30 minute coming up period. During this time, you may feel a sense of anticipation or anxiety, along with a pleasurable warmth or tingling like electricity of pins and needles going up and down the body. There may be signs of physical and sexual arousal, including raised hairs, muscle spasms, erection, chills, tremors, and dilated pupils. Some users also report gastrointestinal issues such as gas, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. Visual effects might include geometric patterns, afterimages and tracers, facial distortions, environmental shifting, and enhanced or shifting colors. Closed-eye visuals are often more vibrant with profound fantasy imagery. You may also experience auditory hallucinations. At higher doses, these distortions and hallucinations can be unpleasant, ugly, or even frightening. Peak effects plateau for 2 to 4 hours. Unlike on MDMA, sexual arousal can be maintained throughout. Tactile awareness and perceptions of smells, tastes, colors, and sounds tend to be reliable. Many report feeling squarely in the body, aware of their muscles and nerves, and merging with physical nature. Nausea and discomfort of the onset will generally be gone by this point. Mood enhancement, along with a stimulant effect, is common during the plateau, but with less pushiness than MDMA. Users often describe 2CB as far more malleable, allowing them to go in and out of baseline consciousness, sometimes abruptly, even during peak effects. Others find themselves dealing with unwanted emotions like anger, grief, and fear. Communicating with others may be complicated or confusing, although it can also be easier for some. In any case, empathy and sociability are generally increased. Conceptual thinking, thoughtful insights, and spiritual ideation are also common, especially when alone. There may be a slight softening of the ego. After the plateau, the effects of 2CB can take up to 2 hours to subside. Some find their appetites returning and can eat immediately. Sleep may also be possible, often characterized by vivid dreams and cheerfulness that can persist for days even after an unpleasant trip. As with other psychedelics, set and setting are pivotal with 2CB, so it's best to avoid during times of psychological distress or too soon after painful life experiences. Public settings should also be avoided, at least to begin with. Because spatial coordination and attention span are negatively impacted by 2CB, the ideal setting will be as free from hazards as feasible. The drug's mild anesthetic effects can sometimes allow injuries to go unnoticed. Driving is especially dangerous while under the influence and should always be avoided. Dosage is another important factor, as increments of just 2 milligrams can disproportionately affect the experience. It's best to start out with a low dose of 8 milligrams, weighed on a precisely accurate scale, and then take on an empty stomach. Confirming that a substance is, in fact, 2CB before taking it is also a good practice. This can be done using a marquee reagent test, which is available online, as 2CB is the only drug known to turn this reagent a bright greenish yellow color. Stay safe, and if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe.